Alright, hello everybody. It is another day. It is the 5th of February. We're 2 days away from Neo. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, I am the Broken Wolf, and you are the lovely people who watch my very shitty content. Uh, and I have a new video for you on Resident Evil's revisions. I have quite a few here that I think make a huge difference to this part of the game in particular, because this part of the game is kind of underwhelming for what Lucas was like making it out to be. I thought it was going to be like some big boss battle type shit. But the way it turns out is you just go through a room and you avoid some fucking some explosives, and you have to do some big stupid puzzle that it was cool the first time, but they make you go through it a second time, and it's kind of like, I know why they did it, because it makes sense, because that's the only way you'd know not to pull the winding key out of the barrel. But the problem with that is, like, the puzzle is just, I actually try to go back and not do that with Clancy, and they force you to pull the winding key to get the password, because otherwise they won't let you use the password on the door. So it's just, the puzzle is cool, but to have to go through it twice is kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't we really modify it to make it a little bit different or whatever? I guess not. But this time we're just going to avoid the puzzle altogether, because the barn fight is going to be an actual cool fight, which it should have been from the very start. So let's get started without further ado. So you go into the room here, and Lucas will represent Evie's need to express herself creatively. So when you walk in here, it'll say something like creativity. At the beginning of the game, it would have said security, and when you enter the old house, it'll say motherhood. And now when you come here, it'll say creativity on the screen. So this is the creativity theme of Evie's of her psyche. If you haven't noticed by now, each three of the main, I guess, antagonists in the game, or sub-antagonists, I guess, have represented a part of Evie's psyche that she desperately needed from the family. And so he represents her creativity. Let's see. Alright, so Aaron will enter the home here, and of course instead of the TV turning on when you sit down, like, I don't know how the fuck that even works. How does he know you just sat down? I don't know. It'll already be on, and he'll see you enter. So he'll be like, come on, Aaron, come sit down. So Aaron sits down, and your brother is he shows you that he has the head, and he's goading you on and, fucking berating you and shit like that. And he basically gives you a little bit of the backstory of their relationship, how Aaron was always the goody two-shoes, doing what he or she needed to do to make dad and mom happy. And eventually you learn that Aaron, he basically, Lucas says kind of something like, well, you learn that what they want for you is not what you want for you. And he says that you're stupid, because I always knew that what I wanted for me, and this is what I want for me. And so he shows you the head, and he actually swallows the D series head instead of just kind of taking it with him. And later on, he kind of puts it back in its case and just leaves it like a dumbass, knowing that we could use it to create the serum. So in the revised version, he actually swallows it. So after doing that, then we get the scene of him kind of doing this, kind of torturing himself, showing you, or trying to show you what Evie's power can do. And of course he gets interrupted by Evie. I think that's a good scene to see her kind of like telling him, will you stop doing that? And he's like, I'm just trying to show him. I like that part. So let's see. Alright. So from here we got to work through the rigged house with the crates and shit like that. And there are going to be some of his automated sentries in here as well, in the revised version. But there's a new enemy type that I'd like to explain to you guys, called the Overmolded. And it's basically what the revised games molded are, but there are two types of them. The first type is, it's kind of like a little play on the molded sentry, where it has a bunch of metal pieces in it and a bunch of metal shards. There goes the TV. The TV blows up in your face for whatever reason. And then the wall over here is open. So the Overmolded are basically sentries that have been modified by Lucas, and they have mold growing through their metal holes. So normally you'll have like holes on a molded sentry. Like there would be sentries up against the wall here, like 2 sentries here. And you have to deal with them. And Overmolded is a molded that crawls along the ground like a normal molded, but it has the sentry circuitry in it, and it has some of the metal protecting its human parts. They crawl along the ground, and they have several different attacks that I'll get into later, but they are actually kind of larger than the other molded. The molded that you say fought when you were fighting Mia in the revised version of the game. They're much larger than those ones. They also have, they're a lot faster as well than those molded as well, because those molded are kind of like stuck to the ground a little bit. They kind of slide across the ground, but the Overmolded are more dry, and so they can move a lot faster than those regular molded can. They also have a tail that erects out of their back, kind of like from their spine, that they can use to attack. And so the bladed Overmolded, they, of course, normal Overmolded, no matter what, will slash at you. They can jump from wall to wall. The vast majority of the time, an Overmolded will be crawling on the wall. So instead of just the molded coming along on the floor, you'll have Overmolded, running along the walls and things like that. They'll, they'll be able to attack from up there, upside down, and things like that. And they are aggressive enemies, and they're melee enemies primarily. They're not completely 100% melee, but they are primarily melee enemies. So they'll be using their tail to get at you from, say, this distance, and when they're up close and personal, say like this distance, then they'll start slashing at you. The Overmolded can also vomit across the ground, so they can kind of spew a trail of vomit across the ground, and they can slide across it and spin. And with the ones that have metal sticking out of their bodies, of course, they can use that to run into you and slash you up. And then there's a second type of Overmolded that are they have a bunch of frayed wiring in them, so they can electrocute you. So obviously if they bump into you, they'll electrocute you, but the electrocuting ones actually stun you as well, so they stop you from moving when they hit you. Oops, forgot about that one on the ground. Anyway, so the Overmolded also have the sludge shot that the regular molded in the revised game do, but it does not blind you as it normally would. With the bladed Overmolded, their sludge shot will, of course, just explode, and it's like a shrapnel bomb. So it'll shoot metal shards around in a radius. So it's best to be blocked if they do that. And the electrical Overmolded have, of course, an electric charged shot. It doesn't have a radius explosion like the shards do, but it, of course, if it hits you, it'll stun you. Alright. So the Overmolded, we're going to make sure are always on the move. So it's not very easy to hit them until they stop to, say, shoot a sludge shot at you, unless they're coming at you. Normally, they'll be either shooting a sludge shot at you or coming at you to attack you with melee. The best way to fight the metal ones is obviously not to shoot at them, especially not from a distance, because they, or especially not when they're moving, because the holes that are visible on an automated sentry are not visible on an overmolded, because of the molded flesh has covered the human flesh that you normally would shoot at. So the best thing to do with a metal overmolded is to fight it with the melee weapons you're given in the game. And the best way to handle an electrical overmolded is obviously to stay at a distance and shoot it, because you don't want to get up close to, you know, something that can electrocute the shit out of you. There he is. Dumbass bastard. So overmolded, the best way to take down the overmolded is to take out their limbs. They have very thin limbs, and once you take out about 3 of them, they will go into kind of a desperate state like the other molded do. But the way they work is, if they get close to you, the metal ones, well, all overmolded, actually, I might as well say, all overmolded can eat other molded and regain their body. So that's something that you have to be careful of. If there's multiple molded in an area, they can actually devour the smaller ones and regain their body. If it's 2 overmolded and one of them is in the desperate or weakened state, the dissolving state, then they can't eat that other overmolded. But if it's a regular molded and an overmolded, and one of them is, or the overmolded is close to death, it can actually devour the smaller one and regain its limbs. In that state, they're very weak, so they're vulnerable to a few shots and they'll go down. So when they get to that point, it's best to hurry and, you know, pump a few bullets into them and take them out. Alright. Other than that, that is the only other enemy that I think is added here. Other than that, we do have the new barn fight. I will be changing that barn fight because you guys know I hate the fuck out of the barn fight in the actual game. Let's see. Yep, let's head up here. And I wouldn't have designed the barn like this. First of all, this kind of doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, this drainage channel does. I mean, because they're barn animals, they're going to have a lot of shit and piss and all that other gross shit. So you want to be able to just spray it off the edges here, right? But the way I would have designed the barn here is I would have made it more circular and kind of like a racetrack. Imagine what a racetrack is like. We would have made it kind of like that. And Lucas would have turned it kind of into a battle arena. So imagine it's like, it's got blades around the edges that are like rotating to keep you from moving too close to the edge. There will be fucking flame jets in certain areas that activate when you, once you say trip a wire or trip a laser. It'll activate these flame jets, and we can actually use those for the upcoming fight that we're about to have. So I might as well just hop in there and blow these fucking dickheads away. Before I describe any of the barn fight, I'll just go ahead and take out these fucks in the actual barn fight in the game. God, they're so annoying. I don't have fat molded in the revised version yet, but they're going to make a showing, but it's not going to be as fucking annoying as they actually are, because Jesus Christ, these guys are terrible. Let's go ahead and grab that. Throw it in here. That explodes. Gotta deal with the fat molded. Probably only one, though, since it's on easy mode. Yep. Alright. So instead of this very annoying, very bullshit fight, everyone who watched my Madhouse mode run in this game knows how annoying this fucking fight is, and knows that I was very close to restarting Madhouse mode when I first got here, but nope, I ended up having to do that on the final Jack fight. But how this would go is this would be in a circle, and instead of this area being so small, it'd be a lot larger. We'd use the entire barn for it. So I'll give you kind of a look for that. There would be an upper floor and a lower floor like this, but we use the entire barn, and instead of all these those weird like fences down there, we'd have a circular arena, and it'd have bladed edges on the sides, so if you get too close to the sides, you'll get cut up and sliced because the blades will be moving. And you can also kind of knock your enemies. Remember how the revised version of the game has a thrust, where you can kind of push enemies backward. You could actually knock them into the blades to get rid of them. But basically, when you start the barn fight, you'll have a bunch of overmolded and sentries and regular molded come in, and they'll swarm Aaron, and you'll have to take them out. And you'll actually be on the bottom level and of the barn when you come in. Like, you know how we came in from the bottom, we went upstairs, came across here. You won't actually be able to do that in the other version, in the revised version of the game. It would just be the second floor would be kind of locked off from you, so you can't come up here. So you'd be down here for the entirety of the fight, and you'd have a bunch of enemies spawn on you, and Lucas, of course, is berating you or, you know, popping off at the mouth the entire time. And as you're taking him out, we would have, if you kept him alive, we would have poor deputy come in, and he's got the grenade launcher, and he'd be blowing away the enemies with the grenade launcher and helping you get, you know, giving you fire support from above. If you did not keep him alive, you'd have to handle it yourself, and the grenade launcher would be later on in the game. You could pick it up later on in the game. But once you take those guys out, we would have Lucas drop in for the Lucas boss fight, because this game does not have a Lucas boss fight. That's the weirdest thing, because you fight the other two antagonists, the other two sub-antagonists of the game, yet you don't fight Lucas. And he just kind of like disappears after the party theme. After I get to the situation with the party, he kind of just disappears from the game permanently, and you never see him again. So what I would have done instead was for you to have an actual fight. So Lucas will hop down, and he will have a sword and shield primarily, and we'll actually have a mutated Lucas fight as well. So he has a spine, he has a tail just like the Overmolded, and he uses that to leap forward, and his leap is very fast. So what he can do is he can push off the ground, and he can either slash, thrust, or hit your shield with his shield. If you try to block his shield, it'll knock you over, but you can block the thrust and the slash. Other than that, he has a bunch of normal slashes and kicks and things like that. Of course, poor deputy will be giving you fire support from above. So he'll be firing down on Lucas, and after you do enough damage to Lucas, either with, of course, melee hits or with your gun, Lucas will start to mutate further, and he'll turn into like this reptilian creature. We'll go with a reptilian design for Lucas. So he's got these scales, right, that kind of reflect light. And you know how, what game was it where there was a creature that could, in Resident Evil 6, for instance. So it makes sense within the universe of the game, and within the kind of the BOWs that we've been seeing throughout the Resident Evil universe. Lucas has these scales that will reflect light. So what happens is when he mutates, a thunderstorm will roll in, right? And so he will he goes through knocking down these columns here, and he brings down a big part of the upper level of the barn, and it'll kick up all this dust and hay into the air. And for quite a bit of time, maybe about 3 minutes or so, there'll be a bunch of dust that is settling in the area. And from the dust, he'll slash at you, he'll jump at you. You can hear him moving around, but of course, since it's raining and there's lightning and thunder outside, you can't really hear where he is. The way you can deal with this is you can kind of try to gauge where he is, because his scales will reflect the light and bounce it, but they also shimmer just a little bit. So if you see him in attack, if he's too close to you, he'll attack at you, and of course you can use your shield and block it. Or if he's far enough away and you hit him, he'll run off and try to hide again. Aaron would also be able to hide in this situation. So if everything is covered in dust and you say go and cuddle up under, the haystacks for 3 minutes, once that dust clears, that part of the fight will finish. So he'll stop hiding and trying to use stealth. What the? That shadowing doesn't look quite right. Anyway, once that part of the fight finishes, all of the, he'll take some of the weapons that were on the ground, and he'll kind of fuse them together into this staff weapon. And from then on, the barn redesign in the revised version would have 4 major columns in each, kind of standing adjacent to each diagonal corner of the barn. And he will leap from column to column to column and throw that weapon at you. So there's 2 sides to the weapon. One side is a big mace cudgel that has a bunch of spikes in it. The other side is a bunch of blades. If he throws the blades at you, you can block them. They'll kind of knock you back, but you can block them. If he throws the cudgel at you, it'll knock you over regardless of if you block it or not. Of course, if you block it, it won't do any damage, but it will still knock you over. And from there, he'll jump down and try to slash at you and attack you. He can also use his tail to grab you, and he'll try to swing the weapon at you as well. So you'll just pop at him or slash his tail up to get him to let you go. From there, once you do enough damage to him, he drops the weapon and kind of goes berserk. So he will become more aggressive. He'll move faster. He'll jump back and forth, kind of trying to disorient Aaron as he's trying to keep track of where he's going. And then he'll suddenly leap at you. So you can't block that when he leaps at you. You have to dodge it. So when you dodge around it, and by the way, the dodge button, instead of it being L1 when you don't have the shield equipped, we could just make it circle. I didn't realize that circle only does this. It literally only does this stupid turnaround that you barely get any use out of. So what you could do is when you hold circle, that's when your character braces and gets ready to evade, instead of having it where you have to put your shield away. So that way you can both block and evade at the same time. So once you take down Lucas, he'll kind of get more aggressive, and you can block his slashes, but he'll kind of come at you with a flurry of slashes, and then he'll hit you with a really powerful attack that can knock your guard down, and then he'll try to do a combo again. So that'll be your prompt to evade those slashes so you don't get stuck in a combo. Once you do enough damage to him, he gets tired, and poor deputy kind of takes him down by shooting him in the back. And then you can have fun digging through your brother's entrails to get the head out, because that's what you have to do. You're going to have to cut Lucas's stomach open and pull out the D-Series head. That's how I would handle it. Because, I mean, I gotta say, the way they handled this is really lame. Like, this bar fight, I mean, the barn fight is just, you shoot the enemy a bunch of times, and once it's dead, it's over. But what I would have done is I would have had you actually have this big boss fight with Lucas. Like, how much more badass would that be? And I think the whole him leaping from column to column thing, I think that would be really fun to do. But that's the Lucas fight. You can open this up. I actually would not do anything with this. Oh yeah, we gotta put this shit away. Yeah. This, I feel, is total fucking padding. Like, there's no reason to have to do this. Yet they force you to do it anyway. So after that, unfortunately, you have to cut Lucas's stomach open and pull out the D-Series head. But he doesn't die from you getting the D-Series stomach. I mean, this D-Series head out of him. So, oh, we gotta go through here first. Yeah. All right. I need to use this. Oh yeah, he's talking shit. Shut up, Lucas. Alright, I also forgot to add that the Overmolded have a tail, and what they can do with that tail is the electrified Overmolded can actually shock you with that tail and stun you a little bit, but the metal Overmolded can wrap their tail around your leg or your arm and kind of pull you along the ceiling and along the walls. I think that would be really cool, because it's just like with Marguerite, how, remember, oh, y'all probably didn't see it, but Marguerite can actually grab you and you, she can kind of pull you up into the ceilings. Well, yeah, I know y'all have seen that, actually. I've shown it several times. It would be exactly like that. They would just pull you along and cut you and hurt you after a certain period of time, so you'd have to do something while they're grabbing you. And they'll just let you go. But I think that would be pretty cool to have that situations like that happen where the player gets their attack, the way they're allowed to move and the way they're allowed to attack is changed up because they're restricted in some way by the enemies. So I think that'd be really cool to have an enemy that can do that to you. I just feel like this game has missed a lot of potential that it had. What am I doing here? There's a lot of things in here that they did not add that they really should have thought about adding. Yeah, I wouldn't even have this part in the game. It's not really that great. I mean, it was interesting the first time, but it's not really interesting gameplay the second, third, fourth time around. It's just something you have to go through. And who the hell would choose this over a boss fight? You know what I'm saying? Something that's an interesting challenge, you know? And then this dickhead drops a fucking explosive in here. Yeah, but actually, I'm sorry, after cutting the explosive out of him, or cutting the D-Series head out of him, you take that and poor Deputy would, if he's still alive at that point. Oh shit. Looks like the timer was actually connected correctly. Holy moly, exploded right on me. Anyway, yeah, you see how, look at this. That was the last time Lucas is in the game. Isn't that fucking weird? Like, he just runs and leaves. And he couldn't possibly have ran through this door because we would have seen the door close. So they do this whole, like, chair spin thing, and, I mean, the way they did it, the door should have been open. The way they did it, it made it look like he just vanished out of his fucking chair. Doesn't make any fucking sense. But, anyway, poor Deputy will tell you that, he has Zoe tied up at the boathouse, or not poor Deputy, but Lucas had Zoe tied up at the boathouse, and he saved her from there. And of course, Mia wouldn't be here because Mia is completely controlled by shitface Evelyn McGee, so we wouldn't have her here in the revised version, or at the boathouse in the revised version. But we're gonna need the crank, gonna need some healing items. We're about to fight Jackass McGee himself, but I'm about to cut it once I get to the Jack fight because I haven't explained, I haven't written how I would design the Jack fight. But the Jack fight, actually, now that I think about it, is really fine. I don't really like the fact that he just magically turns into a large fucking monster. Uh-oh. Don't have my unlimited ammo. I really don't like the fact that he just magically turns into a large monster out of nowhere. Because it really doesn't make much fucking sense. Let me see. Could I be missing? I don't think so. I don't think I'm missing a Mr. Everywhere in here. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have made Jack turn into something like that. Although I do love the way it's mechanically designed in the boathouse. I mean, don't get me wrong. The first time I fucking did it was the most annoying thing ever. But once I got through it and figured out how exactly to do it, it's a lot more logical and understandable, except for the end of the fight. The end of the fight is fucking stupid as hell. So for expediency's sake, since we're coming up on the end of the game and we're coming up on Neo soon, I'm going to just leave the rest of this area the same because I don't really see the point in changing much of this anyway. I mean, this part of the game is okay, I guess. Even, you know what? Even the Mia part of the game is fine. You know, I wouldn't really change that either at the boat, but I would make it Zoe instead of Mia. Because in the revised version, we'd still have it that Mia is more directly under Evelyn's control, and she kind of more directly antagonizes you throughout the game. Yeah, but I feel like this game has just missed so much. There's a lot of missed opportunity in it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the length, but it also has to do with the direction. It has to do with the direction they took the story, the direction they went when it came to how they treated the narrative and the characters. Just not at all how I would have thought they should have handled it. And I'd be really interested to see if you guys had any ideas on where you would love to take where you would have thought the story should have went. With this jackass. I like this part where they ambush you too. I would have totally had this happen too, because I could totally see a bunch of molded ambushing you here and some overmolded and not any sentries, not around here, but I could definitely see a bunch of molded and overmolded coming around here. Look at that. Fucking headshots don't mean anything in these games anymore. There we go. Yeah, I guess the Jack fight is fine. I don't know if I would change that. But to tell you the truth, I mean, after that, I don't know if I would add anything either, because I think the situation with Mia on the boat, if you just switch Mia out for Zoe, then it's fine, you know? So I think this actually might be the last revision episode, because I don't really have anything else to add. Except I would, of course, take away that stupid-ass choice they give you to choose. Whether to choose your fucking wife, who you've been trying to save, who's been missing for 3 years, or this girl you don't fucking know at all. You know what I'm saying? That's why I make Zoe your sister. And, on top of that, she's been helping you throughout the entirety of the game. You know what I'm saying? Zoe has kind of just been giving you vague advice throughout the entirety of the game. She hasn't been very helpful in the real game, but in the revised version, if you make her more useful and if you make her directly help the player, then she becomes you know, someone that the players care about. And this shit is ridiculous too, where she makes the fucking serum. You gotta be fucking kidding me. You didn't just do that. Make the fucking serum right here. Ridiculous. One of those is mine. Then we get Jackass McGee himself. So yeah, guys, I think that is it. That is, those are all the revisions I would have made for RE7. And I hope they would make a more interesting and exciting game. I would love to hear what you guys would do and what revisions you would love to see in a game or a future Resident Evil. And I'd also love to hear your experiences with RE7, because y'all know about mine. There were some good, mostly shit, mostly annoying. But you already know that. Damn. You know what? Even on Madhouse mode, his eyes should actually have that much health. Like, that makes total sense. It makes no fucking sense that his eyes are just, like, absorbing all your fucking ammunition. It's ridiculous. Plus, their eyeballs. Like, they're not... We're not talking about, like, hardened skin here. We're talking about fucking very easy to shoot eyeballs. Okay? They're not gonna have the best armor. Shut up. Oh man, I can't imagine what Neo would be like. Hope it'll be good regardless of whatever happens. I hope we enjoy it though. Oh, and by the way, if any of you have a PS4, I would love to team up on Neo. That would be really cool. So if any of my subscribers have a PS4, do not hesitate to hop on and let's play some Neo if you're picking up Neo. Oh shit, oops. Didn't mean to do that. I think that's it for him. No, it isn't. Oh yes it is. Oh my god. And I'm going to leave it at that. This is definitely going to be the final revisions video. Don't have anything else to add. Oh, fuck. Leave me alone, man. I definitely would not have had, I might have still actually. I might have had you go through that Mia situation where you had to, where you saw Mia, where you actually played like a flashback. I would have actually taken you through that situation as well, the flashback with Mia, but this actually would have been a meaningful choice if you, say, defeated Jack and you kill Jack and you have to kill your father and say goodbye to your father in this fucking form, right? Oh my god, monstrous. And then you go out here and you realize you only have one serum to save one of your siblings. If these were both your siblings, you know what I'm saying, it would mean something, but they're just these fucking... One of them's a strange woman you just met who belongs to this family of crazy bastards, and the other one's your wife that's been missing for 3 years. That's not a fucking hard sell, guys. It's not a hard sell. You choose the strange woman over your wife. Bye-bye.